Welcome to the Art of Lifting Sheffield recap show. I'm joined again by Mani and Millie. We're going to just jump straight in. So you both were actually at the venue watching it live. I just wanted to get your thoughts on what it was like live and if you wanted to compare it to previous years as well.
Yeah, so this is the third year I've been to Sheffield now, and I'd say this is by far the best year yet. And I'm not just saying that just because it's nice to say. I think the production was at a higher quality. The introductions of the athletes as they came on, you just felt so much more engaged, and everything about it was just better. I'm not sure also the fact that I was in the balcony made it better, just because I actually had signal. So when I was in the stalls, I didn't have any signal and I couldn't pay attention to the lifting cast or anything like that. But this year I could actually see what was happening. So that also added to the experience. So yeah, it was good. It was good.
Yeah, I think same as you, Manny, like third year there, definitely the best year so far. Like I think I don't know about what you guys thought, but as soon as they started playing that like intro, like right at the beginning, I was like, this is going to be sick. Like I was so excited as soon as they started playing that. And yeah, I had a balcony seat this time as well, but it was kind of like before I was on the top balcony, and this time I was on the middle balcony, and I think that is definitely just the best seat like all around. So yeah, I thought the production was really good. There were like a few things that I was like a little bit annoyed at, not to be pessimistic. So I know a lot of people thought I was pessimistic on the last podcast, but I did notice that we didn't get a replay at the venue. So every time the lifters would go out, usually the previous years we've had a replay and there wasn't a replay, and that did kind of annoy me because, like, you know, we see things in real time, and like when we're watching the stream at home, I think I watched the stream back and you've got a replay on the stream if I'm correct. So that was a little bit frustrating because if you wanted to rewatch your lift, you'd have to get it up on your phone, and like you said, if you didn't have signal, then that could have been quite frustrating. And then the only other thing was the timer. So obviously each lifter has a minute to do their lift or until they get to the start or squat command, and only the way the timer was positioned on the stage, only half of the audience could see it, and I feel like that's quite like a vital thing. And I've definitely noticed at like each Sheffield that obviously a lot of the lifters do tend to like take their time a little bit more because it's like that. Also, there's loads of pressure. It's a massive stage. Like a lot of these people are like big show characters as well. And like a lot of them, I was lucky to be on the side where I could see the clock. A lot of them were coming up real close. Even like Shell obviously timed out on one of his lifts. But I thought if I was on the other half of the stage and I couldn't see the clock, I would have genuinely been, as like a, you know, big powerlifting fan, I've paid money to go and see the show. I probably would have been a little bit annoyed about that as well. But yeah, other than that, I thought that the event was sick. It was super, super loud this year as well, which kind of made me feel like I wanted to shout louder as well so the athletes could hear me better. So that probably like encouraged, I don't know if other people felt that way, but it probably encouraged the crowd to be a bit more, I don't know, with it, or kind of like encourage the spirits to be up. So yeah, I did find that bench was like incredibly slow for some reason this year. Like for the last couple of years, I love bench still. Like I'll watch it. I'm happy to. But this year, for some reason, it definitely dragged, and I'm not really sure why. But I feel like that was, from what I've heard from other people, that was like a general consensus. But yeah, from a spectator's view, those are my points. I think you're on mute, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good start. No, I had someone messaging me that was actually there, and it was literally just after it ended. We were kind of talking about some of the calls and stuff, and he was saying that he actually felt like the atmosphere was a lot more dead than not dead. Okay. That's probably a bit dramatic, but yeah. He was saying it didn't feel as hyped up as previous years. Yeah. And I think from what he said, it sounded like it was just because obviously there were a lot of misses, and we'll obviously go into that in a bit more in a little while. But he was basically saying he doesn't know, from his perspective and the people he was with, it almost looked like Sheffield might not continue to be as popular because of the fact that maybe it was like big hype the first few years, and obviously it's just slow down. I don't think that's the case, and I think the sales for the tickets for next year proved that's definitely not the case. Oh my God.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I kind of was sat working on the Monday morning, and I saw that they'd been released, and I was like, I should probably get some, but like I remember last year it was nowhere near as fast as this year, and I'm so glad that I got them when I did, because even when I looked and I really wanted the same seats that I had this year, and there was only like 3 left in that same area, and I was like, crap, I've got to get these like now, because they went, and then I literally was in like disbelief, and it was like 100% sold out. But we do know that obviously this year they held some back. So is that actually true? I don't know.
Yeah, it's capped. It's capped. That's why I wasn't panicking. I didn't panic this year. I was just like, there's going to be more tickets available.
Yeah.
We've reserved some for athletes. We've reserved some for like more spectators, like British spectators, closer to the time. So yeah, it's impressive. It's impressive, but don't believe the hype.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I did think that as well, because I know you got tickets quite last minute this time, didn't you, Mani, where they added more.
Yeah.
So and also a lot of people were reselling them as well towards the end, like the last few weeks, like people from overseas that didn't want to come over in the end, and also like a lot of UK lifters as well. I saw selling them all.
Yeah,
so I think people might have also just bought them because they know it probably will sell out. Then if they decide when the roster's released, if they don't want to go, they're just going to sell them because it's not probably going to be hard to resell them at the same price.
Definitely not. Like we were meant to be going in a group of 6, and 4 of the people that I was going with ended up pulling out last minute. So like that speaks for itself. So if there's anyone listening that didn't get a ticket and they feel like they've missed out, then like Mani said, like they're going to release more. Like don't worry about it. I'm sure you'll get a space. I'm sure you'll be there.
Yeah, 100%. So I feel like we should dive into the actual comp itself. We won't go into specifics yet. We'll just kind of talk about it like an overview. I think from watching the stream, I personally didn't enjoy it as much as previous years, but I think that's because the roster had some massive names. Obviously, they're always big names, but like this year, there was a lot of hype on it. There's been a massive surge in a lot of the classes this last year. And I think the pressure and the expectations were a lot higher. But I think the athletes also were trying to live up to those expectations, is what it felt like watching it. And obviously, a lot of them did. I say fall short loosely. They were still incredible performances, even on the people that went like 5 for 9, 6 for 9. But I think that maybe made it a little bit disappointing to watch when you started seeing so many misses. Like the women typically are so consistent at Sheffield. And obviously this year, I don't know if you've got any stats, Mani, of what the average lifts were, but it seemed a lot less consistent this year. And I think as a viewer, I don't enjoy that as much.
Yeah, I noticed that the women's side was a lot less consistent than they usually are. I think overall we were on about 6.65, 6.66 lifts made out of 9 over the course of the men and the women. But I think the women were on about 6.75 and the men are on a bit less than that. So yeah, not great execution on either side.
Yeah, I agree. Like as like pulling myself away from like being a powerlifter and as a spectator, for sure, like it's definitely not gonna like feel the same as like the more consistent events in the past. However, I do feel like as an athlete, this was quite a good event that showcased to a lot of powerlifters that like you can do everything that you can in like a training, whatnot. You can tick all your boxes, you can do all your nutrition, literally everything, which all of these athletes have done. But it doesn't matter if you're not strong enough on the day, then like that's the way it is. And I think a lot of these lifters just did have, bad days. Like obviously they were pushing each other like to the limits. But on top of that, like I think someone that comes to mind, like Evie Corrigan, obviously she's not in direct competition with anyone. She was quite like I think a few of us predicted her to the podium almost. And she missed all of our third lifts. I think she even missed 2 bench attempts and she just wasn't strong enough on the day. Which was a shame, but it is also just like realistic sometimes that can happen. So as a powerlifter, to see that and to see like top athletes still having like bad days was kind of like a bit of like realism for me, I guess. But yeah, definitely as a spectator, it can be a bit frustrating when you're like, oh, I missed again.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. But I think Carlina said it on the like podcast after, like other than Agatha, pretty much everyone had relatively bad days for them. Like obviously she was aiming for podium anyway, and I think she impressed all of us. I think all of us kind of ranked her a little bit lower than where she ended up, and like she had a really good day. But she had such a good day. But she even said like it wasn't a great day for her. Like she still fell short of what she wanted, but she still managed to come second because it just so happened that most people had bad days. So it still made it really interesting. I think the fact that the winner, we kind of knew who was going to win on both sides going in anyway. But obviously the fact that it wasn't even close takes away some of the excitement. But yeah, I think they all kind of had bad days. And in some ways, they're missing, like you said, Millie, it makes it more relatable because it does happen to everyone. Like you can't always have a perfect comp. But also it kept it more interesting to think like,
where's everyone going to like where was everyone going to end up? I kind of like said as well, like the way I summed it up is it was a good day to have a midday. Like, because so many people were like, see, Carlina had a good day, but she had an even better day because everyone else was having bad days. And like, I think that just shows as well the benefits of like safe attempts and like having like a strong, like, you know, she went 8 out of 9. So yeah, like, as if you can do that, then it's proof that like sometimes you can pull through. So
yeah, I would say that on the women's side, the first and second place didn't they performed pretty much as I'd expected them to perform. I'd say Carlina hit about 5 kilos more than what I thought she would. Agata hit about 4 kilos more than I thought she would. So it wasn't a case of them doing exceptionally well compared to expected. It was just everyone else underperformed, unfortunately. And on the day, like you said, Millie, that's what made the difference. So yeah, it's just it is reassuring to us lower level lifters that like, yeah, this happens to everyone, but I also would like to see them do a bit better, and hopefully next year.
I wonder if at some point they might introduce like really interesting thought actually, like almost like a cash incentive for going 9 for 9. Like, I don't know, just something I'm chucking out there, but like even 8 for 9, because like you said, as a spectator, that's what we probably want to see. So if they did put that on the table, would more people obviously are they going to, it depends how much the value is compared to like where they can place, I guess, but just something to put out there, I guess.
Yeah, that's a really interesting
idea.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think Matt Gary mentioned something about penalties for missing lifts after a certain point, so that'd be quite cool.
Yeah, like deduct like, I don't know, $1,000 each time. Yeah, interesting.
That's a really interesting concept though, because I think a lot of people have been saying as well, like I think they've said it since Sheffield started, but obviously they've proved it's still popular. But it was, how is this going to continue to be interesting? Because even like at some point the world records, unless you keep getting like outliers like Agata come along, like the world records are going to start to stagnate. I mean, I don't think that makes it less interesting, to be honest, because I think the men's side last year, basically to get on podium you had to break the world record in your class. Like, not a lot of the men last year didn't break the world record, but it was still interesting, because at the end of the day these people are still lifting individual records and very close to the world record totals. So I think it's still interesting to watch, even if they don't push it miles up the field. But yeah, I think that was one of the arguments people were making was, you know, how is it going to stay interesting? Because there's only so many times they're going to be able to push these records really far. There's only so many people that are going to be able to like cut weight and do that. But adding something like an incentive to go 9 for 9, which then potentially will obviously hinder their total if they play it too safe. Because obviously the thing is with Sheffield, they do risk it in hopes of making those bigger lifts. But then obviously long term, it'll probably make the total higher. Or penalties for missing would be really interesting. Like if you miss a world record attempt, and I don't know.
Can you imagine like Hannah like breaking like this? Like he would be in debt from Sheffield. He would be like minus 4,000. That's a really horrible thing to say, but it's so true.
You're proving why everyone said you were so pessimistic on the preview show.
My bad.
But it is true that I think something else I wanted to mention as well, men and women's side, that I think affected a lot of the lifters was the harder Leco pad, because a lot of them have been training on the soft pad. I've used both. The soft pad for me definitely adds at least 2 to 5 kilos to my bench. Like, I think the soft pad is lovely, and I know a lot of the lifters, especially on the women's side, that sink. Meg Scanlon, Alba, I think Amanda Lawrence has even said she prefers the soft pad. And I'm very intrigued, because I think, how much would they have benched if they had that soft pad? Because when you're that technical as well, it makes a big difference. So I wonder how they play. And also Agata, she said in the recap show that she's used the soft pad, but she probably would have 160 on the soft pad.
It's interesting that like I was surprised to see that the newer bench wasn't out there. Do we know the reason why? And like should there be something in place that means that, like, I don't know, there should be the same standard bench at like all like international comps? Because like, to me, I just thought it would have been there because it was at nationals. So why wasn't it at Sheffield?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one either, and I agree. I think it should be consistent across the board, because I know in the IPF rulebook you have certain IPF approved benches, so you could use a variety. You could use a Rogue, you could use different specs of the Alico one, but then that brings inconsistency for lifters, and it's a bit unfair, really. So yeah, it should really be one, I think.
Definitely. And like, as someone that like doesn't even sink that much, like I can tell the difference between like benching on that soft pad and not. So I can't even imagine like what it can like do to like a lifter that's lifting like, you know, like Agatha like 160. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it should be standardized. I think like if that's what you're using at the World Championships, that's what you should use at Sheffield.
Yeah.
Like it just makes sense to keep them the same. Like that was the qualifying years, like Worlds. They use the same equipment at Sheffield, and it's not like I'm assuming they use British powerlifting's kit. It's not that they don't have, or some they can use it. Obviously, like they will have those pads. So that was something I thought was interesting because also I feel like even when I did Commonwealth, we all knew in advance which pad we were using on the platform. So surely they could have asked, unless everyone just assumed the same thing.
Yeah, it's a bit odd.
Yeah, but that was something I thought was worth mentioning. I think we'll chat. We won't go through all the placings or anything. Podium for the women's side: Sunita in third, just underneath the world record with 99.59%. Carlina second, 100.49. Agatha first, 104.67, which is mad when last year she broke it by, was it 6 or 9% last year?
It was 106, I think.
Yeah, so she's added another nearly 5% to her world record total from last year. So that's crazy.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys if there's any standout performances on the women's side firstly.
I think the like one for me that's probably like not going to get mentioned as much was probably, I know Evie had a bad day, but I think even the fact that she got up to 172.5, I know she missed it, but like just how close that was to the squat world record, considering like her leverages and like that her squat isn't her strongest lift, yet she was still that close despite cutting down. Like for me, that was a real, like just going out there and her loading that was like a real standout moment. I could probably say the same as well about like Sunita's squat. Like I know she missed it, but bloody hell, 325.5, like 6 reds on the bar for a woman. It's just nuts. So just watching that was absolutely crazy. And then obviously like Agatha's performance on the day just blew me away. Like I think her squat really came through on the day. She looked like she has. I think she squatted 210, but she looked like she might have even had a little bit more. So yeah, that's really exciting for me. I'm excited to see Agatha just continue to blow up and up and up. I think she's absolutely phenomenal, and I don't think she gives herself enough credit as well. Like I don't know if you guys saw her Instagram recap, but she was almost annoyed at herself. And I think I heard on the podcast that she did with White Lights that she might have come off and she was kind of getting angry and frustrated with herself. And it just shows, doesn't it, like perspective's everything, and you could be literally the best lifter in the world and still feel not great about your lifting. So but yeah, she was incredible.
Yeah. I'd add that Brittany Slater's performance really impressed me, just because she went 8 for 9, narrowly missing one bench press at the end of 160. Got the world record deadlift and totaled, I think it was 718. Was it 718? No, sorry, she totaled 716. But that is an incredible total, and I think it's only because the world record was so high of 731, which is why she was in 9th place. Otherwise, she would have absolutely smashed it. And any other day, if you're up against any other super heavyweight other than Sunita, that would have been like top of the pile. So hats off to her.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you guys just said. I was actually going to shout out Brittany as well, because I think she's someone, like we said on the preview show, like you don't really see a lot from her. I know mentally she'd been struggling going in, but then she posted, I think it was the day before Sheffield, that she'd actually had a really good prep. And you can't really ever tell where her top end is either. Like that world record deadlift did not look max effort at all.
No.
Squat is like the fact that she is already comfortably in the 710s as a total, that's huge. I know Sunita's obviously pushed the world record really far, but Brittany's still progressing at a very good rate as well. Yeah. And I think she probably had a bit of room on the squat too. I know she gets quite nervous, so maybe they take it a bit easier, but like she could catch Sunita, like depending on obviously if Sunita's squat continues to just skyrocket. But yeah, the fact that Sunita jumped, she didn't need to jump to 325.5. No. Like if she would have jumped to 322, she would have had it. Like it was very like she didn't need to go that heavy. I think that was the heaviest ever squat by a woman, wasn't it? Like tested and tested, so she wanted to go for it, which makes sense. And she didn't really have a lot to lose. Like I don't feel like Sunita's the sort of lifter to play it safe, is she? Like she's going to go for it anyway. No, and yeah, the speed of her 313, ridiculous, like actually ridiculous. And yeah, I was going to say Agatha's squat, her 210, like that matches her best. I think it matches her best as a 76.
Yeah.
the fact that she's doing that at 69, crazy. But yeah, I think on the women's side, Evie's performance was really good. It was nice to see her grind out a squat for once.
Yeah,
It was nice to see that. And I know her last squat in training was a grind. I remember her, I think it might be 175-ish.
yes,
But
yeah,
she doesn't normally grind that much in training from what I've seen before. So that might have even just affected her performance a little bit. Obviously, she travels really far as well. She has to cut. So the fact that she still got the 172 and grinded that out is mad. Like, it's so impressive. But yeah, I think even with the misses on the women's side, like, it was still really good. Like Tiffany, she squatted 160 on her second after being ill. Like, she clearly wasn't having a good day, and she still managed to get 160.
Yeah. I think as well, like, we haven't mentioned obviously Jacob coming in, like, wow, like after everything that she would have been through like the last few like weeks, like just even show up, and like she still put together like a phenomenal total for a 57, and just like credit to her, like what a strong woman.
Yeah.
Her bench as well.
Yeah,
107 was insane. I don't know if maybe it's because she hasn't been able to push squat and deadlift as much, been able to focus on it more, but she's sinking a bit more now, I noticed, and it looked really so, like, even on the hard pad, it looks really solid. Like,
moved really well.
Yeah, I was shocked
going up, because normally her bench is quite hit and miss, isn't it? I think it's very like, you can't ever really tell where her top end is, where this time, like, it looks so solid and consistent.
Yeah, like I don't think I've like every comp she's always had like a green and a black or a green or something, and then this comp she did 105, then 107.5 I think, and it's just to see her come out and bench that yellow plate twice, I was like, go and get it. Like, wow. And it was easy as well. I was so impressed.
I think something else. Sorry. No, I was just going to say, like, I don't know if you guys would have seen this, but obviously with the live stream, they zoom in on everyone's faces before they come out. And I think it was her second squat she came out for. And you could see in her face, like, how emotional she was. She came out and she grinded that 180. Like, we were literally watching the live stream, like, on the edge of the seat, thinking she'd got it. The fact she came out and fought for that twice, like, it obviously wasn't her strongest day. Like, she went and injured. She posted the day before that it wasn't going to be her best performance, but to load up 180 twice like that, and like, it was nearly there. Like, we know she can grind. Yeah. The way she's been feeling as well, like, she had an insane performance. And like you said, no, it wasn't close to her best, but it's still an insane total for a 57.
Oh, absolutely. And like, you've made me think now about Bobby as well. I know we said we're not going to go through every lifter, I feel like we are, but so many things to mention. Bobby, the energy obviously that she was bringing was so cool. It was sick to see her on that stage. I can't lie, I was really gutted for her when she didn't get that last squat. Like, obviously she like did that weight before at the British, and she's so capable. So I was a bit gutted, but I think she would have, like, we're all so proud of her for just making it there, and like even like having the opportunity to load it, and like I said, like, it's definitely there, and I think like she will take that world record again at some point. So that'll be good to see.
Am I right in thinking her bench and deadlift were PBs as well? Her deadlift wasn't it?
Deadlift
her bench was 190.
PB.
But yeah, her 112 might not have been a PB, but it was still
she couldn't chip. Yeah, she couldn't chip for a PB and international level comp. So I think her PB is 113.5.
Yeah.
At British. So yeah, but she did exceptionally well. She did herself proud. She did GB proud. So happy with that. And I was going to say with Jad, her bench bodes well for the future, because I've noticed with a lot of female lifters in particular, bench can be quite difficult to push relative to squat and deadlift. Obviously not the case for everyone, but is a case for a lot of lifters, especially someone like Jad, who is a stronger squatter and deadlifter. So when she's actually able to push those again, I'm sure her total is going to be far more than what we've seen before. So that's it's good.
Yeah, it would be amazing to see her like on the podium next year, like maybe if she can come back, like, because like you said, like if she can push her total that much, then she'll be right up there.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens at Worlds as well, because if she can get healthy, she might not have a lot of competition this year, because I don't know if Natalie Richards is going to be healthy enough to come back this year, because she still looks like she's rehabbing, and I think she's had another flare up since she kind of got back to her old levels of strength.
Yeah.
I think someone else has moved to 57s.
Sarah Naldi.
Yeah, so Sarah Naldi's moved down, so there will be a bit of a battle there. But like you say, if Jad's bench is still progressing that well, and she gets her squat and her deadlift back, because her deadlift in training before she got hurt, she pulled 240. Like, she's coming above the world record at this point. Like, if Jad gets back to full strength, she'll probably have a fairly easy time at Worlds and get herself that ticket to the next Sheffield, which that'll be all 4 Sheffields she's been at if she gets invited again next year.
It's nuts.
That is quite the achievement.
And she normally does so well at Sheffield as well, because the first 2 years she beat the world champions, didn't she?
Yeah.
So very interesting to see. I think, unless you've got anything else to add on the women's side, we'll jump to the men's.
I think one more thing that I have to mention is the grip strength on Amanda Lawrence on that last deadlift. Wow, that was incredible. Like, I just, like, when you watch something and just like, I genuinely can't believe I've just witnessed that. Like, how she was able to hold on to, I think, what was it, 269 kilos in her hands. Just like, that was the grind of the comp for me, I think. Like, wow.
Yeah. That was good. She got 61 kilos on that hand dynamometer thing, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, I've actually got one of them at home. Got one here. I took it with me to Sheffield, and everyone was playing with it. Like, I got my mates to play with it. I got Nonzo and Josh to play with it. It was hilarious.
That was funny.
No, Amanda's third deadlift, to be fair, like, I'll be honest, I always question with her lockout, just because I think it gets stuck on her thighs. The way she kept hold of that 269, like you said, Billy, like, that's insane. Also, the fact that Agatha then loaded 269 basically just to match Amanda's pull. Like, Agatha didn't get it, but that's so crazy. And I think it was quite cool. I know Amanda's probably didn't have the day she wanted. Like, her squat didn't show up how she wanted, but we know she's got the strength for 250.
Yeah.
Like, it was just an off day. Bench, I think soft pad, she would have had the 140. Like, that would have been a huge total for her. And obviously she went in wanting to prove a point. And no, she probably didn't hit the total she wanted, but she's clearly like stronger than ever, I think. And this will just put another chip on her shoulder for Worlds. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see.
Definitely.
Right, we'll move on to the men's side. So before we go through kind of the placings and things like that, was there anything overall you guys wanted to mention from the men's side, like maybe to do with the 10th selection or anything?
I guess for me, like, I felt like it showed through more on the men's, but like, obviously I felt like there was more of like the weight classes, like, so there was like lots of little, not battles, but battles going on, I guess. So I feel like for me, like, it was almost more entertaining to watch, just because you were keeping track of where everyone was, and then you were also keeping track of like, where's Ade compared to Joris, where's Krastev compared to Headland. Like, it was just a lot to keep tabs on, and like, I enjoy that. So
yeah. I think on the men's side, I was exceptionally impressed with the 93s. They did loads better than I thought they would. And, whether that's due to strength levels or controversy, which we won't go into now, whatever you want to call it, I think they did sick.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree with what you said, Millie, as well. Like, I think it was actually more interesting the women's side, and that's the first year I felt like that. Like, I follow the men's side, to be honest, probably closer than I follow the women's side a lot of the time but like Worlds and everything. But normally at Sheffield, I do find the women's more entertaining. I think it is to do with the consistency normally. But this year, the men's side, there was, like they said, loads of little battles going on and loads of little storylines going on, and even like Waskar in the 59s, like, you kind of, I think everyone, you're rooting for him to make his lifts to get as close to that record as possible. Like, and I think you're a bit more invested. I also just noticed only one of the men went 9 for 9, so he definitely deserves a shout out, and that was Gustav Headland, which isn't a surprise that it was him and everyone there.
Mr. Consistent.
Yeah, he's the only guy that went 9 for 9. Obviously, that got him in third place. Emil came in second, winning the battle of the 93s, and then, no shock, I think, to anyone, Shell in first. Although I do feel like his performance was maybe a shock to some, but not others. Like, I don't think he performed as well as people thought he would. But one thing I noted on the men's side, 3 men had to weigh in twice to make weight.
Yes.
Shell, Durand, and Waskar, which I think is really interesting. I think Shell said on the recap show that, or like in the King of the Lift show, the scales were off. The scales they had in the hotel or wherever they were staying were different to the actual official ones. So he thought he was quite comfortably under. So I think he started eating and drinking, and then obviously he ended up 300 grams over, and then had to get that off. And I'm assuming Duran's probably had similar, because they've got the same nutrition coach. They both work with Kedrick. I would assume it was probably a similar thing there as well. And then Waskar, I don't know, possibly the same.
He's so light, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's always going to be tight.
Yeah. Duran's went into quite a bit of detail about this on Saturday, because they released their recap show a couple of days ago, and it was painful to listen to, man. It was just like, the fact that the scales weren't calibrated, and Duran had to do all of that to make weight and then recomp, and then couldn't even recomp properly because his throat was sore from all of the purging.
Oh, bless him.
Yeah, and that so it makes sense why he was a bit under where people expected him to be.
Yeah,
but again, like, if those issues aren't there, he'll be fine for Worlds and World Games. But I won't go into too much detail on that about that. You can listen to Sabado podcast for that. But
yeah.
I
I haven't listened to that yet. Sorry, I was just going to say, Millie, but I do think like the scales thing at a level of a comp like Sheffield, like obviously it happens, and it happens at Worlds, it happens everywhere. Like, but at a comp the level of Sheffield, that should be something where you know people like Shell and Agatha and people like that are cutting weight, and pretty much everyone entering is going to be doing a weight cut, right? So you need to get the scales. Like, that could have made such a difference to the day for Durans, for Shell, for Moscow. Like, that's quite a big thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, like, going back to this point brings me back to a point about the like production of the meat. And I know when you're watching the stream, you can kind of you get to know from like the commentators saying about like if people have had to weigh in twice, but like as a spectator at the event, we couldn't actually we didn't know that, if you know what I mean. And I think that would have been helpful for me to know for like all three of those competitors that they'd had to weigh in twice. Like, I was almost kind of thinking in my head it would be almost cool if like SBD maybe on like their Instagram released like kind of like notifications or like story updates like every time like a lifter made weight or something, or like how many attempts it took before the event, just like a little thing, and it just kind of like tunes us in better to what's happened or what's happening. Because even as each lifter was coming out, on the back sheet you could see which weight class they were in, and I was checking every single one because I was like, well, there's no one, like Joe Whiteley wasn't going to announce if like someone had made like changed weight in the weight class, so I felt like I had to keep an eye on that because there wasn't like a specific thing that kind of told us.
See, I think they could also, I mean, I haven't been in person, but I feel like they could, I'm assuming everyone is there comfortably before the event actually starts, right, before liftoff starts. Could they get Joe to come on and give a bit of a story about what's been going on, like just 10 minutes of, or not even that, like 5 minutes of, Shell is the favorite, but he took 2 attempts to make weight, but he wasn't the only one. Battle of the 83s, Duran took 2 attempts, and then obviously like Boscar's chasing after this record that's been there for so long, and kind of make it into a bit of a story so that you guys know what's going on. Because I think even like on the first year when it was speculated that Evie was cutting to 52s, but no one actually knew for sure because nothing had been said, like as soon as they said that on the stream, obviously everyone at home was like, oh my god. But if you hadn't have noticed that, like I'm sure people would have been like, oh my god, and like it would have spread around the arena. Obviously you're watching, but just knowing all of that before it actually starts, because even on the stream, like they kind of say it in passing. Like I had friends over watching it with me and we were obviously chatting and stuff as it was going on, so we were like rewinding to be like, wait, what did they just say? And it's quite easy to miss if you're not fully focused. So I think getting a bit of an announcer like at the start just to talk through the fact that it's taken certain people that much time to make weight, or like shock who's weighed in which class and stuff like that, would be really helpful.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think that would be good, especially if they had a score sheet projected on the back for everybody to see from when everyone's weighed in and they put their attempts in for openers. That would be good to see. And yeah, I agree.
I wonder if they're moving to, is it Utilita Arena, aren't they? I've not been to the one in Sheffield, but I've been to the one in Newcastle, and it's obviously like, I'm assuming somewhat similar. I have no idea, but they like any gigs or anything you go to, like, or concerts, like they've got the screen on the side, right? Maybe they'll have the screen on the side with the score sheet. They'll keep the kind of the cameras, like the view that you guys get zoomed in behind the lifter, so that you'll maybe get the score sheet on the side. Because I'm wondering if maybe it's just not doable where they are currently.
Potentially.
Yeah, because we kind of the way that the stream was done as well, like you could only see it forecasted, but you couldn't see it in like real time. I think that's the way they did it, or it was the other way around. I can't remember, but like it would have been kind of like helpful to have, I don't know, not both, but like the same one throughout, because it kept like changing. But like that's just like trial and error. I guess it's still like a fairly new event.
Yeah.
I have a couple other suggestions as well. I was just going to knock them out before I forget.
Yeah, go for it.
One of them was making sure that the world records are actually updated in real time on the score sheet that's just projected to the fans in the City Hall, because the world records were just the initial ones that were in place before the event. So if someone had already broken it, you think, oh yeah, they're breaking it by this much, but they're not actually breaking the world record. You know what I mean? So that was a bit annoying. Another thing, which I said to a few other people, is that it would be good if the centre refs had microphones, as in like an actual mic stand, so that we could hear them in the arena. Because you can hear them on the stream, but you can't really hear them in the arena. And also, I'm sure the athletes struggle to hear them, especially on bench when you can't see the commands. You need to be able to hear them very well. So that would be good. And then the final thing I think would actually really add to the experience on a live stream and in person, and not just for Sheffield, but for just comps in general, is if the jury were mic'd up. If the jury were mic'd up and we could hear them deliberating, that would be awesome. It wouldn't even necessarily need to be for the full process of 2 minutes or whatever, them talking. Even if it's just like the lead member of the jury or one designated member actually announces why the lift was overturned or why it remained the same, that would be great for context for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like, obviously we're all refs, so like most of the time, like, we can like kind of tell what's going on or why that's been like, but like a lot of these people aren't, and like a lot of people don't even power lift. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to know the rules. Like, so I think something like that would be really helpful. Or even like if it flashed up on screen, like the reason why, like the jury could literally have a button, like 3 buttons with like the different, like 9 buttons with like different reasons on them, and they could just press it, and then it would just let everyone know why the lift was a fail or why it's been overturned, and it could just flash something really simple, I guess, to probably add in. But on the topic of the jury table as well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is definitely the most active jury we've had at Sheffield. I felt like that anyway. But for the life of me, I can't understand why the jury table is on the right side of the platform where the athletes don't exit off and not on the left, because it causes so much commotion. Like, we had Kedrick, I think, running back and forth like twice. Like, it causes so much stress for the coach themselves, and then obviously the jury are trying to like kind of get ready for the next lift, and they can't because the athlete has had to spend more time actually walking over to the jury table. Like, obviously the jury table is going to get used at competitions like these because obviously there's so much online, and if that jury table was on, you know, the exit side of the platform, I just think it would kind of smooth line the process a bit more. It'd be easier to, like, I know after Shell didn't get his start command, like, he was quite confused. Like, I could see him speaking to the refs, and obviously at comps like these as well, there are language barriers, and like just having that jury there, like, he could have gone directly to the jury if they were on that side. Obviously he's not going to walk over to them if they're on the right side and just be like, oh, what was that for? Like, what do I need to do next time? And it just kind of it makes it easier for everyone. And I guess as well, like, production wise, we don't have like coaches running back and forth across the screen. So to me, like, I can't, like, I feel like that's just such a simple thing that I would always have. I'm sure there's probably a reason, but I can't quite understand why.
Yeah, I really like that point. I actually thought that as I was watching. I can't remember which coach it was. I think it might have been even like Joey on Russ's last deadlift or something. One of them ran across, but then the other lifter came out, obviously, for the next lift. Yeah. And then it's like, well, do they just have to stay and wait? But then they need to also, like, after they've had the jury decision, they have to get that next attempt in. Like, I know most of them have someone else there to do that or whatever, but it would just be nice to not have that. I mean, in some ways, as a spectator, like at home, it's fun to see the coach run across, like, to get that overturn, but it's not needed. And also, you could have a camera at the jury to show, like, while they're loading the bar for the next lifter, show them talking, show people what's happening, like, that the jury don't just overturn or like whatever. Like, I know they can, but show that the coaches are going over to talk about it and stuff as well. And I think to make it more spectator friendly, I definitely agree, like, some way, like, one of the jury having a mic and saying overturned for, because also it's easy to miss when stuff is overturned.
Oh God. Yeah, I think I even saw on Sunita's recap, she put about her last deadlift, like, she proper thought she had it, and because she didn't hear anyone say anything, and I could totally see how that happened because it was so loud there, and I was kind of like watching quite a lot, like, of the behind the scenes between like the jury. I could see their table, and then I could see Joe Whiteley with the mic, and I was trying to like assess the communication lots of times, see if things were getting overturned, and like it was like there wasn't really like a system in place. Like, they were kind of just like waving to Joe and being like thumbs up, but that could mean anything. Like, that could be like, yeah, the lift was good, or yeah, we've overturned it. And like, I think, you know, things like that, they're so important. There needs to be like a better process in place so that the lifters benefit from that, and so do like the jury, because they don't have to like worry about missing the next lift because they're too busy trying to overturn the one that's just happened.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it just makes it easier to follow for everyone involved as well.
Yeah.
And also, like the people, like I don't mind there being a jury. I think it's quite good to have a jury for not obviously to take lifts away, but to give lifts if a lift
Yeah,
has been like red
and-
lighted. Like it's a nice thing to have. So
Yeah.
to make people understand it more, and also to hold the jury more accountable for consistency, make them announce what the reason is as well.
Yes, absolutely. And like we saw it work in favour. Like Sunita's second squat, she had 2-to-1 red light on depth, I think, and then it got turned to a good lift. So like absolutely, like that's what the jury table like should be there for stuff like that. So
Yeah. And for goodness sake, have a 5-man jury at an event like
Yes!
this, not a
oh
3-man.
my god,
They have
yes,
3.
Yeah.
yes. I actually don't. I can't believe I've forgotten about that because that is huge.
There is not a shortage of refs for Sheffield. There can't be.
No.
There
No.
cannot be.
They were all
Even
Cat
if-
1. They were all Cat 1 refs, and there were literally Cat 2 refs in the crowd, like loads of Cat 2 and Cat 1 refs.
Yeah.
So there's plenty if they wanted to.
Yeah.
I guess as well, like I'm sure they could just use more British refs, right? Like it's not like it's its own comp. Like it's not the same as Wales where you have to have like I'm assuming a certain amount of refs from each country or whatever.
Mm.
Just get more British refs in. I don't know. There's definitely options, and also you could definitely get some European refs over cheaper.
Yeah.
Like, there's options. There's
For
options.
sure. I think like they must be getting expensed, right? So like how hard can it be? Like and like I'm sure a lot of like the refs from the other countries are quite keen to come over to like participate in Sheffield. So yeah, I can't believe I've forgotten about that, Manny. That's a really, really good point to bring up.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I'll ref. I'm only a regional ref. But I'll ref. It's front. Yeah, that's front row view.
Easy. Yeah, honestly, it just means that a lot of the decisions aren't as you can actually get a majority vote rather than it must be unanimous, and so there's so much money on the line. If you can't contest anything properly, then what are you doing?
Yeah, definitely. Like it just at that standard, like it should just absolutely be solidified of like a non-negotiable. Like I really think that that's so important.
Yeah.
Right. Enough slagging off the production, guys.
We loved it. We promise.
It's little things, isn't it? Really, in the grand scheme of it, like it was still amazing, and it's only getting better every year.
Yeah, for sure. And like I think a lot of the time, like it's really good to talk about like feedback and like because powerlifting is like a very like community built sport, and like everyone just wants it to be better for everyone. So it's good to like kind of speak about these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think we should go back to the men's side. I think we'll just do kind of honourable mentions, and I want to say one that I think you guys might say, Russ's third squat. I am a big Russ fan, okay? And as much as I would love to sit here and support GB, Durins and Ade, like I would have been happy if any of those came out on top in that battle. Russ's third squat, it was a bit of a grind, but it wasn't that hard, like by the looks of it. From what I could see, depth, absolutely undeniable. Like he got all white lights on all 3 attempts of his squat. And I feel he kind of hinted that other than World Games, he's probably now going to move up anyway. What a way to leave the 83s. Because I don't think there's anyone else squatting close to that in the 83s either. Like that record will probably stand for a while. Like I know Durins has a good squat and obviously had a bad weight cut, so he didn't get to show the full potential. And I think year or two, he probably can get close to that. But I really wanted to mention Russ's third squat and actually his performance as a whole. Like he had a really good day. Like he is in his 30s now. Like he's not super, super young. Like he's been training since he was a teenager. Like he really proved a point with that one, I think.
Yeah, it was a good day for Russ to have a good day because like we saw Durins and Ade, they didn't quite hit all their attempts. So yeah, Russ was like on fire because he was having a good day anyway, let's be honest. Like he looked strong, like his bench looked strong, his deadlift looked strong. Did he go 9 for 9?
No, he missed his final pull.
Final pull,
He also opened on a bench PB as well.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. He had an amazing day, and like we said in the preview shows, he just thrived off the environment of the crowd.
Yeah,
and it just made him stronger, which is just
it was great seeing him on the live stream coming out for every lift, like working the camera every time he came out. Like it's built for people like Russ.
Yeah.
Obviously, there were a lot of other performances that were fantastic. Like we've said, Gustav 9 for 9. Him and Emil, I think it's just going to be back and forth for a while. Don't get me wrong, there's other 93s coming through. Like I think Keiko, if he wins American Nationals, definitely, well, whoever wins American Nationals will be in there too. Like But that's a battle that I think we've got for a while. And I know we're not going to talk about it too much. Like, there were controversial calls across women's and men's side, but like the referees had a choice to make. So obviously you have to go with what they've said. But yeah, I think they were some really good performances. I'll let you guys talk about what you thought too.
Yeah, I just wanted to add with the Russ thing. He's one of the people that hit the total I predicted for him to hit. So it's a case of where my predictions were very off, but everyone underperformed relative to what I thought, and then Russ actually hit what I thought he would, and so did Shell pretty much. So yeah, they did well. But again, it was just an execution thing. I think a lot of people had unfortunate days. But I was actually really impressed with Waskar's final deadlift as well.
Oh my god!
Yeah, because that record has stood for 5 years. And to see him break it, and it wasn't even like it was that hard. He might have actually had 278 to 280 in him.
Yeah,
so that was good.
Plus, I always feel for like I think I've got a few things to say about Wasper's deadlift. Like, obviously, like, I don't know if you would have been able to see from the stream, Sean, but like, he came out and I think it was his son was sat on someone's shoulders, and it was so I actually like did cry like a little bit, and like I think I was just like it was just insane, like, just to watch him do that. But yeah, that was like a proper like heart clenching like moment, like, just to see that, like, the way he like looks over. But yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention as well, like, I think it can, like, I don't speak from experience here, but I think as a lightweight lifter, like, coming into like a big comp like that, like, he's the lightest one there, like, from like no doubt of it, he's going to be lifting like he's going to be the first out for a lot of things, and like that can like be quite tough from being like the top of your weight class to coming into a comp like that can be quite hard. And I think just to see him hit that like world record on that last pull, like, just to finish the day off like that, like, you could just tell that he was so happy. And like, I'm just glad that he did that, because I think, you know, he is a great lifter, and I think a lot of the times the lightweight lifters, especially on the men's side, don't always get like, you know, the credit where it's due, if that makes sense. So I was very happy.
Yeah, definitely agree on that. I mean, again, we're probably going to talk about all of the men, but I also want to say Ashton as well. Like, I over predicted what he would do. I'll admit that. He came last, which for Ashton is obviously very unusual. Like, he always shows up. But I think on the preview show we mentioned it too. Like, he's dealt with a pec tear, so his bench obviously wasn't there. I believe he's the first person to scratch an attempt at Sheffield. I don't think anyone's done that yet.
Bingo card.
For him, I don't think his squat was as strong as he wanted it to be, but he still squatted a world record at 375. Like, and bearing in mind his second attempt was a record at 371. The fact that he did 2 squats in the 370s back to back, that close together, like, that's crazy. Deadlift, he missed his final 2 pulls, but 340 opener for him. Like, 340 is not a good pull for him. Like, he can pull more than that when he's healthy. And what I like as well, like, he's kind of spoken recently about, like, before the comp, he'd almost hinted at retiring sometime in the next however long. But since this performance, he seems to be really hungry to keep going and prove he is who people like. Because he's definitely made a name for himself in the sport of powerlifting, obviously. But I think if you're not like a hardcore powerlifting fan, you might not really realize how good he is, because he was in USAPL for so long. And he clearly wants to solidify himself on the IPF stage. So hopefully this quote unquote bad performance is actually going to keep him around for longer too.
Yeah, definitely. I think like what was making me laugh is like, obviously his squats, like, he came out and he did, I think it was like 330 or 335 for his opener, and then he just went straight to 371. So that was like a 40 kilo jump, and then it was like 5. I just thought that was so funny. If anything, I thought his second attempt moved better than his first, so I was blown away.
I'm just looking through the other names. One person, I actually think he did have a good day. I can't remember what the total is. I can't add that up off the top of my head. But Panna, I do think actually had a good day. Like, I don't think Panna had a bad day at all. Obviously, placing wise, like, we kind of all predicted that he wouldn't finish much in the top 10. If in the top 10, he ended up coming 10th. He got called in fairly late. One thing that I have found interesting, this is not like I'm a Panna fan. Like, I am a big Panna fan. He did talk as if he only had 20 days to prep. However, when he first got that reserve invite, he made it very, very clear he was prepping for Sheffield.
Yeah.
So I do think that might be a little bit of cope but he doesn't need, like, he still had a good day. Like, obviously he took massive jumps. Like, he jumped 165 to 175 on bench, so he missed 2 bench attempts. But had he jumped a little bit less, he would have had that. Like, it was, I think the second, from what I remember, was a grind. Like, and with Hannah, you never know if the ski's going to make it or not. Like, he has the potential for more on that total still. And I still think he had a good day. But yeah, I found it quite interesting when I saw that, because I think even King of the Lift said that he had 20 days to prep, and I was like,
Did he though? Did he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I also think that someone that really surprised me on the day was Austin Perkins. So every time he came out, he just looked like he had something to do and then somewhere to be. Like, there was a lot of like messing around and like having fun on these platforms. Like, there was, you know, like lots of character. Perkins, he stepped on the platform, he did the lift, he left like 90% of the time. Like, I wasn't really expecting that. I think, you know, I was expecting him to be a little bit more of like a showman, but he literally did not waste no time coming out for that lift. Like, there are other lifters that were like counting down to the second before they got their command. He had like 45 seconds left. I thought he, you know, his lifts were really good on the day. I was a bit surprised that he didn't end up finishing on the podium, to be honest. Like, I did have him up there, but I think he did say maybe in his recap that like the nerves or like the expectation that they did hit him a little bit. So I'm confident that hopefully we'll see him back there next year, and I think we'll see a completely different type of lifter, because I wasn't really expecting him to come out like that.
Yeah, I think I was about to say before you kind of said it was in his recap, because I don't think I've read his recap yet. It must have just been the nerves, like, because you can mentally tell yourself you're prepared for Sheffield, you're prepared for that. And I think Perkins, he is quite, like, he seems quite outgoing, like that sort of character. But until you're on that stage, trying to focus on what you do, because he's quite a quick, like, not erratic in that he's, but like, that's the only way I can describe it. He's quite a quick, erratic lifter. Like, his pull, he doesn't take long to like set up. Like, he just goes, and same with his squat. Like, he's very quick. And I think being that sort of fast-paced lifter in an environment like Sheffield, where everything is so probably overwhelming anyway, probably will impact your day quite a lot. Like, I mean, he still came away with world record squat and deadlift. Like he said, like, it can't be understated. Like, he is a phenomenal 74. Like, well, any weight class he decided to be in, but like, phenomenal 74 lifter. And he didn't break the record by loads, but he clearly also was, like you say, he wasn't himself on the platform, I don't think. And I think give him another year out there and he'll be more prepared. But I think that's where you could see it as well, because this year had I think the first 2 years of Sheffield, there were a lot of repeat people, where this time there was a lot of new people there who won't have had that. And you could see the difference between the people that had been there before and that hadn't when they came out.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, he was very locked in, and he had a purpose, like you said, Millie. Like, he's very in and out. He does this quickly. He exits quickly. He enters quickly. And yeah, didn't have the best day just because of his last deadlift, but squat and bench went really well, in my opinion. And he still earned £14,000. So that's nothing to turn your nose at. Yeah,
absolutely. I think on the men's side, that's kind of most of what I want to say. I'm very intrigued to see if Shell continues as a 66 like he originally said he was going to. I think he kind of went into Sheffield with the attitude, I've done all the work to get here, I might as well stay here for a bit. I know he's signed up to Euros as a 74, but that might just be so he doesn't have to cut, because I think Euros for him, I don't know what other 74s would be close.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he's doing that, to be honest, but be interesting.
But yeah, I'm intrigued to see if he stays as a 66, because I think surely the first time you cut down is going to be the hardest, especially with the issue with the weigh-in scales. So potentially give it one more run and see what happens. But we'll wait and see. I know he said as well, World Games he wanted to do with a light 74 just to get really good GL points. Also on GL points, I think Mani, you pointed out, didn't Agatha break into the 130s?
Yeah, she did. Wow. She hit 130.74, I think. Yeah, 130.74.
And she's now said about dropping to 63 potentially as well.
Yeah, for World Games. I mean, not World Games, for a Euro Muscle Show, right?
Yeah, I think she said if she can break records there, she will. If not, it might not be worth it. But I think the whole thing was, we'll just try and see where we get to. If I feel rubbish, I'll go back up.
Yeah.
That's insane. Insane.
Because she'll really like ruin everyone's day if inflates that world record to like 600 plus, and then comes back like, right, none of you are coming to Sheffield now. Just one wild card, and that's it.
Yeah.
Have Agatha in her own little section at Sheffield. She can't compete with everyone else.
Yeah, it's also like interesting though to think, because obviously, like, I don't know if you've seen this like meme going around of like the Reaper like knocking on the doors, and like, I'm assuming that that's in relation to bench because it's got 84 on there, and obviously she's got the 84 record. I'm assuming that's not full power, like that people are like thinking about. They're thinking about bench because otherwise 84, like she hasn't got any of the other records, has she?
See, I think people are hinting that because she finished so close to Amanda, she's kind
She's
of
already
proved it, but
killed her.
obviously it wasn't Amanda's best day, and
Yeah,
she's not done it yet. So
so
That was full power, I think. Yeah, I think it was
but how
full
does that
power.
make sense though? If she's not taken any of the other 84, like if I was Amanda and I saw that meme, I'd be like, Cap, like you've not battled against
I think
me.
that is how she
Like-
feels.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be frustrated. But yeah, anyway, like in terms of like bench, I was more thinking like, let's be real here. If she was to cut to 63, it will be quite, because obviously that is like an insane cut. Just wow, yeah. But it will be interesting because obviously the record in 63s is like what 140, but is it 143 or something like that? And it will, if she actually got down to 63 body weight, could she bench that much still?
Yeah, 143.5.
That's not low, is it? Like that's that's a massive bench at that body weight.
Mm.
And I just wonder like how much can you still continue to lose? But you know, she said she's not 100% certain yet, is she? Or like she's going to try it. So I think, you know, you don't want to get to, obviously she's an absolutely phenomenal athlete, and I would hate to see her get injured by doing something stupid like cutting to the 63s, because, you know, like as a spectator as well in the sport, like I want to see what she's capable of. I don't want her to cut down to 63s and get injured and then like all these records just get halted for years, but I want to see her push them. I want to see the boundaries getting broke.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it will be really interesting. I'd rather that she went head to head with Amanda personally, but if she can do the cut
Stay
to
out of the 84s, thank you.
yeah.
No, I think I
Yeah.
agree with you there. But then I think it sounds like she's being sensible. So she's working with Kedrick on her nutrition now by the sounds of things as well. And I think the game plan is basically see how it goes. If at any point she doesn't think it's worth it, go back up. But like her calories going into Sheffield was 3,100 or 3,200. Like Shell's calories were like 1,200.
Yeah.
66. Like normal people cutting a weight class.
Does she have any siblings? Can we get them into powerlifting?
But then I think one thing I found interesting that Carlina said on the recap podcast was basically like, there isn't another Agatha. Like there aren't really full-time powerlifters. She's in a position where she can make it her career. I don't think she coaches or anything. Like she literally powerlifts for a living.
No.
She's young. Like I think she's still technically a junior. Like she is making this her life. So who knows? Like everyone at Sheffield is a genetic outlier, right? Like everyone at Sheffield is like, they have the potential to do, like, they are doing crazy things. So what if we let all of them quit their jobs, be full-time powerlifters and train more and focus more on recovery and all of that? Like what, don't get me wrong, I think Agatha is still like 3,200 calories cutting to 69 is crazy. Like there is something crazy about her body, but what could these other lifters do if they had that opportunity as well?
Yeah.
And I think the sport growing how it is, we're probably going to see more people doing that.
Yeah,
It'd
we've
be
seen
like,
it with Russ a little bit, because he's pretty much a full-time powerlifter now, and he's significantly better than he was at Worlds.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like, I mean, Russ still isn't old. Like he's still got plenty of years and like left to lift and stuff and progress. But you know, Agatha's still what, like probably 8-9 years younger than Russ. So she has that on her side too. Like, what if we get a junior like Nonzo, SBD 6 days a week, full-time powerlifter?
Oh,
like,
mate.
What are we gonna see?
Freaks, man. I'm glad you didn't call Russ old either, because he's exactly the same age as me. So yeah.
No, but I was also going to say on the bench thing, if Agatha did take the bench world record in the 63s, I think that would also help put more respect on Meg's name, because Meg has benched, I think she benched 150 as a 63 in training. She's 147 at the local meet she did recently, which was just a train through meet, and it was comfortable. Like on the soft pad on a good day, Meg and Agatha's benches probably would, like, Meg would probably be in the 150s, which I don't think enough people quite register how insane that is. Like, I know everyone knows Meg has a good bench, and obviously Agatha is just incredible, like doing all these different weight classes, cutting weight, maintaining her strength and stuff. But Meg is a mother to twins, in her mid-30s. She's been doing it for a while, and she's benching close to Agatha as a 63.
Yeah. Wild.
Yeah.
Right. I think in terms of performances from Sheffield, that is everything I want to say. If you guys have any more like things you want to point out.
I guess the only other thing would be like obviously towards the end of the men's, we were like, oh my god, Ade's gonna pull into second.
Yeah.
Like he's got this massive deadlift loaded up, and then he got it to the top, and then he just lost balance, which was quite difficult to watch. Like it was hard to watch that, and I'm sure he was more frustrated than any of us. But what a performance! Like I think as well, because obviously he missed his last squat and bench, just to be within that close already after like only being in the open for like a certain amount of time. Like he is quite a bit considerably younger than like the other two in that class, and I do think he has got like a real big bit of potential like going forward into the 83 class now. Like I'm excited to see where he goes, and it's just crazy to think like we watched Enna like pulling these massive deadlifts, being like he's a freak, like there's no one that can pull a deadlift like that, and now enter Ade.
And arguably Ade was quicker too. He literally fell over at the top.
I'm looking forward to seeing them head to head.
Well, Enna and Ade.
Yeah.
Enna's moved up to 93 now.
Oh, I'm behind.
Yeah,
I'm behind.
Enna's moved
I didn't know that.
So.
Is that recent or?
Yeah, it's quite recent. I think that's why he hasn't competed for a while. So he's just like eating. If you watch his videos, you can notice that he is a bit hencher. So
amazing.
To be fair, I think his last performance as an 8, it might have even been wild. I remember looking at him. Like he is like his squat had obviously gone up in his bench. And I was like, he is gained a lot of muscle. So I think it makes sense to move up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like you said, Millie, like Enna was an absolute outlier with that deadlift, and Ade's just pulled. Like I know he didn't get it. But the speed of that pull, what is he going to be? I'm really excited as well. I don't know. I'm assuming Russ probably won't be going to Worlds, which means Joe Borenstein, I think, probably will. And I think it depends because American Nationals is going to be a bloodbath for the 83s.
Ade
versus Joe.
Yeah, I think Russ is doing Worlds though, because I saw that I can't remember whose post he commented on. It's something like "See you in Germany" or something.
Okay.
So I think he is doing it.
That'll be interesting to see. I guess they haven't said how they're doing their selection for America this year. I don't think it'll be interesting to see, but yeah, I think.
Oh, I guess he's maybe like hoping that it'll be there. I don't know.
Yeah, long term, I think for Ade and Joe, if they both stick to the 83s for a while, because they're both young as well.
It'd be good. Ade's pull was I don't even know how to describe it, because with Enna, for example, he's literally what his Insta handle suggests. He is a crane, so it's not like super powerful off the floor, but it does just like eventually just get the lockout, and it's a bit uneven. Whereas with Ade, it's just a lot more technically sound and far more powerful.
Yes,
it's too powerful for his own good in a sense, and he just lost balance at the top. And I think I worked out that cost him like just over $9,000, just losing that bit of balance. Yeah, no, it's painful. It's just like, oh mate, you just had it. Like, but he did everyone proud. Yeah.
But it's not just that though, is it? Like you have to think like if he'd got his last squat, his last bench, he wouldn't have had to load it anywhere near the amount. So hopefully he's thinking of it like that and not like it was just that one pull. Because I think even like he didn't even make really bad attempts, because it was just like 2.5 a bit too much on squat, and then 2.5 too much on bench, and it kind of just added up. But then Sheffield is for going all out, right? Like, get him at Worlds where he's got to be a bit more conservative. Because I would imagine Team GB will take both of those as well, like Durins and Ade. Like, I think it would make sense to take them both, but obviously we'll wait and see what happens with selection this year. But get them both at Worlds, being a bit more conservative. Obviously, the weigh-in issue won't happen with Durins, like because Durins said he had like the prep of his life going in, right? Like, he definitely didn't have the day he thought he would. So, what happens when weigh-in's a bit easier? Like. It's going to be very interesting to see. Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
All right, before we go, Mani, have you got any stats for us?
Got a few here. Let me just run through. So let's talk about money. Talk about some money. So go through the women, So one interesting stat for the women is that it's only the top 10 that actually earn money compared to the men, where all the men earn money.
Yeah.
So top earners, Agatha earned 40 grand this year. She earned 40 grand last year as well, so she's taken 80 grand in the last 2 years. Carlina earned 22,500, and Sunita earned £12,500. Not a bad day out for us three.
No.
So just want to mention as well how cool it is to get a super heavyweight on the podium too, especially after Sunita went all out at Worlds.
Yeah,
like she pushed that record.
Yeah,
I
agree.
think that's cool. I think that's cool as well, especially as a heavier guy. And the men, so we have none other than Shell earning 35 grand. Emil in second with £17,500, and then Russ in third with £16,000. Now the order of these are a bit different to the order of the actual percentage of world record, just because you have some total specialists like Gustav Hedlund, who only earned money from his placings and no individual records, despite him breaking the total world record. Didn't actually earn any money from breaking the total because Emil went over his total. I think those are like the only interesting stats that I came up with. Earnings
I think it's really interesting that Gustav earned less than Russ, like you say. Like, he is so consistent across the board. He's the only lifter of men and female that went 9 for 9, but he's not got any of those world records. I don't think he's far off the squat, to be fair. I think give him and he might even go for it. He's very conservative, so he's not the type to risk it. But the fact that he earned less, yet he had such a fantastic day, is crazy.
Yeah,
which is why I think there would be an advantage bringing in this cash incentive or penalty points. Yeah,
I think you're right. One other thing I did want to mention is that there were 14 female world records that were broken, and there were 16 male world records that were broken in total. I'm not sure how that compares to previous years, but that is still quite a lot.
When you think as well, sorry, Millie, I was just going to say that when you think all these people saying they had bad days, and there were that many world records broken.
Yeah,
it's crazy. But yeah, I think that's it for the stats. I didn't go too extensive this time. Didn't want to bore you all, but yeah.
Any final thoughts on anything? Excited for next year having 2 Sheffields?
Yeah, I think that'll be really fun. I'm so, it already blows my mind. We've been 3 times, but I still step into that arena and just think when you go to a powerlifting company, you're like, oh, it's so sick. Everyone here's got the same passion, same mindset. And then you step into the Sheffield City Hall and it's that just get amplified by 100. So to be in an even bigger arena with 12,000 people, it's just going to be absolutely nuts. I think that the SBD team, I know Pete Spence takes the lead on it, the production of the meet, they killed it this year, and I know with that bigger facility, it's just going to go nuts. I can't wait.
I've just seen that Pete Spence has shared my meme.
What was the meme?
It's literally about what you're talking about just now. That's why I pulled it up.
Never actually experienced that sort of atmosphere again before. It's absolutely electric. The passion.
You might not be able to see this action.
And now he's going to hear you complaining about the production.
Yeah.
And he's going to block you.
Yeah, he's going to block. He's literally going to block me. But I feel it's almost been a week now, so maybe by the time he hears it, I'll be all right.
No, I think the good thing, from what I can tell, because I don't know the SBD team, but it does seem like they want the feedback as well. They're trying to make it a spectator sport. I mean, they have, right? Compared to what it was 3-4 years ago, it's so much easier to view and to watch along. People that don't follow power, how many, I know I keep mentioning Russ, but how many Russ fans aren't powerlifters that just watch him because he's jacked and strong and he does bodybuilding style of training too? How many of those will tune in to see how he does that aren't powerlifting fans, but will actually be able to follow along and keep up with it too?
Yeah. Love it.
It's exciting.
I tell you what, though, I am upset that the t-shirts sold out before the end of the event. It's ridiculous. Like, come on, SBD, get some more t-shirts in. I don't want to be paying for postage.
I think, to be fair, there must have been a bit of a shock with how things were. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
even with the ticket sales, like the amount of people on the post I saw where they said it sold out, being like, "Oh, like why don't you upgrade to a bigger arena?" And they're like,
Yeah,
"We are," but
I think
they didn't expect this.
yeah. I think a lot of people were annoyed as well that they did it. Like, 'cause obviously January can be quite a difficult time for a lot of people, and like they did it before, like a lot of people got paid.
Yeah.
And saw lots of comments related to that, which I thought was quite funny.
Yeah, I was kind of half waiting until I got paid, and I was like, I can't buy this right now.
Yeah.
Missed out anyway.
Yeah.
But like we said earlier, anyone that didn't get tickets, like there will definitely be more about, whether that's people reselling the ones they've got that they don't want, or SBD releasing some more nearer the time. Like if there's, I think because a lot of Brits got in, obviously there was more release and stuff. Like you just wait and see.
Yeah, defo. I think like on that note as well, like I would say to anyone that's like not been before that like you need to go. Like if you're watching it every year and you've not been, like make next year the year you go, because like it is just like ridiculous. Like sitting in there, the atmosphere is crazy, and like just watching it in real time, like it doesn't compare to the stream. So yeah.
Especially before the venue changes, because in January 26th it's going to be the last one at the Sheffield City Hall, and then November 2026 it'll probably be Utility Arena Sheffield. So just so you can actually appreciate the new venue, so you know what it was actually like at the original one. Yeah, I'd say this is definitely the one to go to in Jan.
Fine, I'll buy tickets.
Hint, hint.
See you there.
So one thing that we all wanted to speak about that we actually forgot to mention on the original call, so Mani and I have jumped back on. Millie couldn't be here because I think she's actually volunteering at a comp today, is we wanted to speak about Kelly Mann being the first female head coach at Sheffield as well. She's head coach she was coaching Meg Scanlon. She is Meg's main coach. And obviously that's quite big on socials at the moment, but it's obviously a really big deal. I think, Mani, you were actually the one that mentioned it this morning that we forgot to talk about it. So I thought maybe you start there.
Yeah, Kelly Mann was the first female head coach at Sheffield, and I thought this is obviously like a huge deal. But I was trying to think back, and I was like, surely there's been a female coach before. But I think the distinction of head coach is very important here. But either way, it's huge and it needs to be talked about. So yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think what I really liked was, I think Pete Spence even shared it, when I think Meg put a post up basically talking about a conversation that her, Kelly, and I think Pete also had about the fact that obviously as a female coach in this space, like it's not the easiest thing. Like typically powerlifting, I mean, even just female powerlifting, it's grown a lot over the last few years. So with that, obviously the female coaching side is growing too. So to see Kelly, who is a really well-known coach, she coaches a lot of high-level lifters, male and female, to see her head coach at Sheffield is huge. I think is also, like you said, the distinction between head coach is quite important, because Tina, part of Flex, like she has handled at Sheffield multiple times. I don't think I saw her there this year, but like last year, she was the main handler for Amanda Lawrence. I think the year before she was with one of the guys on the team, like, because obviously Flex always has quite a lot of lifters there. So I want to give her flowers too, like, because even just being the first, I don't know if there were other female coaches there. There probably were that I've just forgotten, but even Tina obviously getting flowers for the fact that she was still there handling it. Like, handling at Sheffield is not easy. No. Trying to keep, especially someone like Amanda who wants to do as well as possible, like, or any of the flex lifters, like they need to be on the ball. So I think it's worth mentioning that as well. Yeah, I think especially with a stage like Sheffield, this is the best of the best. It's not just worlds. It's also, these are all world champions going up against each other. So to say that a field such as powerlifting coaching, which is dominated by male coaches, at the pinnacle, we now have female coaches there is something to highlight and celebrate. So yeah, it's definitely very cool. And I have no doubt Kelly's probably going to be there again next year, possibly with even more lifters, looking at some of the people she's coaching now. So it's very cool. I definitely want to just jump back on a call and obviously put that in the episode too, because it is definitely too important to skip over that fact. Yeah. No, I'm glad we mentioned it.
Thank you guys for jumping on. I'll get you to just shout out your social medias again for anyone that didn't see the last time. I know you love this bit, Millie.
So guys, you can find me at m.illylift on Instagram and at millylifts on TikTok as well.
Nice. And you can find me on ManiPower_1 on Instagram. So that's MANI power, all one word, _1. And then my coaching page is Solace_strength on Instagram. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you guys for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Bye.